I have a confession to make. I wasn't a believer of community up until like pretty recently. So the reason, if I can take you back to 2022, I remember this line going up and up and up. So this is basically the cost of acquisition for a customer, and we were just like putting a lot of money on paid marketing. We had to find an alternative, and that's when we start looking to our community and say, let's bet on our community, let's show up for them, let's make them the main character. And to Bruno's point, instead of sort of like talking about ourselves, let's sort of empower them and advocate for them so that they will then in turn advocate for us. And that's sort of like when we see our cost per acquisition coming down, when we stop actually putting money onto those pay platforms and start investing in our community. So instead of money, we actually trade it in for time and relationships and connections with our community, which makes us a lot better from there. So before we go further, one thing that I would say is community is not an initiative. Community is the outcome of everything that you do. So the Cyberimpact emails that you send, the social media, how you show up on social media, the other things that you actually host, like this webinar for Cyberimpact, these are all part of building up a community, a sense. It's a feeling, a connection that you have to a brand. And the kicker is like the connection that you have for a brand is not based on your relationship with you per se, but it's about the space that they're able to create to bring all of the like-minded people together. And because of that, you associate that positive feeling to the brand. So one of the game-changing thing is us just sending a survey and say, what do you want to see in our newsletter? What do you hate? What do you like? What should we do more of? And our webinars as well, we just ask like, what topics do you want? And so then we tailor everything according to them versus saying like, hey, we should talk about this. We just ask our community, like, how would you, from a scale 1 to 10, how much would you recommend us? Don't just think about your journey as we're just here to create engagement on social. You want to think about what are you going to do with the attention. At the end of the day, it's about the things that we're creating. Is it relevant to people that we want to reach? And then once we get their attention, why should they follow us? And then when they follow us, what do we do with that attention? And for us, we move them to off social spaces, which is our newsletter and our webinar. The reason is because then you get the attention and you're able to then keep building on that relationship and not leaving it to chance that they will see your next post. You have your social media communities here, and then you have your own communities for you guys who be newsletters. This is what you want to think about is how do we combine both social media and own communities together? And so for us, we use social to attract more people that are social media managers. Then our call to action is not to buy HeyOrca or to sign up for HeyOrca. Our call to action is actually, hey, join our newsletter. And the pitch is like 1 minute emails every day to keep you up to date, because our social media managers, customers, they stress out over the algorithm changes and they just want to know that they're not left behind. And that's basically our promise to them, that you join our communities and we'll keep you posted. And then from the newsletter, we basically redirect them to like the webinars, to our Facebook group. And our Facebook group currently is like 10,000, but took time to get there. And now everyone's like having conversations, but they're all coming from social to newsletter to those close communities. And then when they have to talk about a really good webinar they attended, it actually goes into social media. People then join our newsletter, then join our Facebook group, and becomes a flywheel. I want to encourage you to think about both sides of the equation. If you have a newsletter, think about what your social media looks like. If you have social media presence, think about how that actually adds to your newsletter. The community mindset, it's not about what you put in, it's about sort of how you think about your content. So what makes a good newsletter versus a bad newsletter? In my opinion, a bad newsletter is the ones that just, it's like, back in 2010, like it's just a bunch of information. It's about this is what's happening, blah blah blah, or like just a list of things. It's just not engaging. It's not relevant to me. It's just a bunch of information, or like information about the city, from the city, for example. You're getting it, and it's just like, okay, it just feels like a brochure, right? So a brochure is the worst case of a newsletter. The best newsletters are what I think is like the modern newsletters. Like, although people can't talk to each other yet on those spaces, they're surfacing like today. Like even we can use this webinar as sort of like a way. So if we have to convert to a newsletter, instead of saying this is how you build community, we can say we hosted a webinar yesterday, and these are some of the things that our community members asked. Someone asked about recommendation to building community and engagement. Someone asked about this, and these are the answers. And then we featured like Joe, like a guest speaker. So it's about how you use that space. It's not about, oh, because of the newsletter, I cannot build community. It's about how you use it. Like social media can be a one-directional thing if you use it wrongly, or you can actually use it and engage, and it becomes a community platform.